Welcome to The Awareness Angle, the podcast that digs into the messy, weird, and occasionally ridiculous world of cybersecurity. We're here to break down scams, stories, and why people still click dodgy links. Everything we say is based on our own opinions and experiences. So if anything sounds too bold, don't blame our employers. They'd probably prefer we kept quiet. I'm Matt Davis, and with me, as always, is the guy that makes us look and sound way more professional than I actually are. It's Luke. How you doing, Luke?
Hey, yeah, good. I like the new intro.
Yeah, trying something new. Why not?
You missed out the award-winning, but it's probably...
Oh my God, yeah, we are the award-winning. How can I do that? Should restart. With the award-winning podcast, we're going to take things back to basics, like the award that we won. So let's get on to it. In this episode, we've got news about the latest update on retail cyber incidents. We've got the NHS getting hacked. We've got MacOS malware. We've got Patch Tuesday. We've got unpatched threats, updates on old stories. And then we've got a couple of topics to go through. All of that and a whole lot more on this week's The Awareness Angle. Right, so let's get straight into it with the news.
Cool. Yeah, so our latest update on M&S. So they've resumed their online orders 6 weeks after their cyber attack, which was obviously the Scattered Spider and Dragon Force ransomware incident. So yeah, this obviously initially disrupted their contactless payments and click and collect. And this led to estimated £300 million of loss.
Let's have a little round of applause for Marks and Spencer's for getting back up and running.
Yeah,
That's,
I mean...
fully sincere as well. I can't even imagine what they've gone through dealing with that. So well done, M&S.
It's been a long time, I'm sure. So yeah, they've reintroduced their online orders 6 weeks after that's all happened. So yeah, I mean, there's probably not much else to really talk on this one.
I think, it's amazing they're back online. It's really good. We almost definitely haven't heard the end of this. There'll be a documentary, there'll be speaking slots from senior leaders on the talking circuit. Coming to a conference near you in 12 to 18 months will be someone senior at M&S talking about their incident.
Probably.
So it's there's going to be a lot of lessons to learn from this, I think. It's going to be an interesting one that we're going to hear a lot of over the coming years.
Yeah, I think a lot of businesses as well, obviously, have learned a lot and maybe gone back to retrospectively do a lot of behind the scenes work. So
I think the retail industry is a lot more secure for M&S's pain. and other businesses as well. This has helped shine a bit of a spotlight onto cybersecurity. So it's good. It's thank you, M&S. Sorry, sadly you had to be on the wrong end of it, but thank you for helping the rest of the world wake up a little bit.
Yeah.
But that's not all this week. United Natural Foods in North America, they're a grocery wholesaler, and they are a key supplier to Whole Foods. It's now their turn. They've suffered a cyber attack. They've detected unauthorized activity on their systems, and they've taken systems offline. So they're temporarily unable to fulfill and distribute customer orders, and they're working with third-party cybersecurity professionals, and law enforcement are involved. It must be a really good time to be a third-party cybersecurity professional.
Yeah.
Now must be a really good time to be those people with the bat phone ready to go. This is pretty much textbook. We're seeing this across the board. This is now supply chain disruption. There was one similar a few weeks ago in the UK. A supplier of food to like Tesco's and other people were impacted. They might be targeting this vertical, this industry, but they don't care who you are. If they find a way in, they'll get in and they'll create a problem. So in the hope that you'll pay some money.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's, what does it do? It cause people to work long hours, affect the share price. And it's probably a competition between them. So
yeah, unfortunately, and that leads on to the next story, which is the next organisation to be hit by a cyber attack, the British Horse Racing Authority. It's the governing body of UK horse racing, and they confirmed that they had a cyber attack on internal systems. There's some news reports about how staff have been instructed to work remotely, and their London office has been closed temporarily. But despite this, they've still been able to proceed as usual, which I guess shows they've had some plans in the background waiting and ready for this sort of thing.
I wonder if that shows a different nature of the business. Like, they've told everyone to work remotely and they've closed their London office. Marks and Spencer's turned off remote work and told everyone to come in. Two very different angles on that.
Yeah.
But
I guess it's difficult.
Maybe different systems were affected.
Yeah.
Who knows?
I'm not sure how obviously big this authority is, but yeah, the same sort of thing as well, how they've, external experts in and law enforcement. But yeah, this is just the next person or next company to get affected by this sort of thing.
Yeah. Well done on the BHA for telling everyone and being honest and transparent. Not everyone does that, as the next story will disclose. So in May 2024, so just over 12 months ago, 13 months ago, attackers broke into a system at NHS Professionals, which are the UK's largest temporary staff provider for NHS trusts, and they stole their Active Directory database, which is essentially Active Directory is like the telephone book for your company that has all of your users listed. All of their passwords are associated with that. It's kind of like the brain of your computer logins and identification system.
Yeah. I mean,
someone's going to tell me I've described that wrong, but that's like a crude way to understand it.
Yeah, I think that's what was reported for M&S, wasn't it? At some point.
I think
that's
so.
How they got the credentials.
Yeah. Reported or believed. I don't know whether that was actual fact, but it was definitely widely discussed. So NHS Professionals didn't disclose this breach until June, till just now, like June. So 13 months. So NHS Professionals themselves claim that no data was taken. They don't believe no, they didn't take anything. But investigators from Deloitte said otherwise. And they believe the attackers exfiltrated Active Directory and password hackers. So they've got 190,000 registered healthcare professionals on their books and over 1,000 staff. So they're a big, big target. But now it's like, who do you believe? Do you believe Deloitte or do you believe the company? How did they get in? It says that they used a compromised Citrix account that had a username, lms.support2. That's a really familiar username. That's it's not unique to. I mean, both you and I look at that and we recognise names like that. So it must be quite common. And when they got in, they escalated privileges, moved laterally. So escalating privileges is where they, give themselves more permission to do more things. Then they moved laterally across the network. So moved across the network using things like remote desktop protocols and SMB. And they installed malware, and then they used a physical drive to copy data. This wasn't a casual breach. It was like strategic, deep. They were like in doing stuff. This wasn't just this was like a full, like they're in your engine. They're not just like polishing the wheels or whatever. So yeah, it says here, AD, this is a better way to describe it. AD is the heart of the enterprise. Why didn't I say that? It's the heart of enterprise access. Usernames, passwords, security groups, and essentially a blueprint for your organization. So that kind of lists all of the users and what permissions they've got and where they can go. So with that, if they take that, they can try and crack your passwords offline, and they can then orchestrate credential stuffing or impersonation campaigns. It's AD is like the keys to the kingdom. It's quite an important thing. So Deloitte have been in, Deloitte have looked at this. They've flagged the fact that no multi-factor authentication on critical accounts is a key failure. They've said that there's poor EDR, endpoint detection and response, poor EDR coverage, which let the attackers roam undetected. So they've got devices that don't have any EDR on. And then they said there's no drive mapping safeguards, which were exploited to copy AD databases. So, yeah, Deloitte helped the NHS reset AD, rotate certificates, passwords, disable unnecessary accounts and mapping, and then rolled out multi-factor authentication. So it's MFA is such a key part in everything we do. And, before passkeys, which we've spoken about previously, you've got to get to MFA.
Yeah.
And
especially on
not SMS.
Privileged accounts and these accounts that, not just user accounts.
Half the time we put off doing things because we're scared of the disruption and we're scared of the potential impact these changes will have. But it's only when you're faced at the coalface and stuff's happening that you make these changes. Everybody, there's going to be friction, but sometimes friction is necessary, right? And there's never a good time. There's always a backlog. There's always bigger projects. But I think in the current security climate now, if you've got a backlog of security works that hasn't been given the right attention, now's the time to get someone to do something about it. There's so many examples in the press right now. Do you want to be next? Because if you want to be next, keep ignoring this problem.
Yeah. No, big mistake from this example here. It's very messy.
Yeah. It's not a fun one. Right. That's kind of the news for this week. This section is a newer section. We did this once before, but it's slightly different. So we're going to do what we call Phish and threats. So this is where we talk about the latest phishing or vulnerabilities that we've seen this week. So we're splitting the news out into two. So we've got the news, stories of the companies that have been impacted. And now we're talking about the stuff that's knocking on your door, the stuff that might be coming to get you, or the things you need to do to stop them coming and get you. So this is Phish and threats.
Cool, yeah. So, the first threat, I guess, and is something we've seen before with ClickFix. So, it's a attack vector that's been sort of a bit on the rise recently.
We've spoken about ClickFix a number of times, haven't we?
So it's essentially the scam where you land on a page, typically like a capture or could be like a Cloudflare security check thing. You click on it, pops up saying there's something wrong, click here to fix it, and it does the whole copy malicious code to the clipboard and tells you to run it or paste it into a terminal window. And then obviously, deploys some malware and other nasty stuff.
So we covered this a couple of weeks ago. There was 3 or 4 stories, all Windows-based.
Yeah, so there's one with Zoom, Google Meet as well. Your camera's not working, click here to fix it.
There was a fake capture. When you click the capture, it tells you to press WinR. Now, obviously, there's no WinR on Mac. So this is the Mac equivalent.
Yeah, so this is a Mac OS campaign that's going around. It's called Atomic Mac OS Stealer. AMOS for short. This one is supposedly starting with a fake US telecom company called Spectrum. I guess people may have got there through a dodgy sponsored ad. That's a dodgy one. Or just an ad in general that maybe they clicked on and it's taken them here. But it shows a fake capture page and prompts them to run a command, paste obviously into terminal on a Mac, and this runs a script that steals credentials and downloads malware. It says here it's been attributed to Russian-speaking actors, and this reflects on this increasing trend of ClickFix-based distribution. Something else to mention is these sorts of things typically use a URL that's like a typo scoring domain, so it's something that looks resembles a genuine domain but has like a different character or different letter or something slightly different that could just pass by without being detected, really. And then, I guess the general sort of message really is, especially for a business, I guess, users probably shouldn't be doing their own IT support in a lot of cases, and especially not pasting in commands that they found on the internet or have been told to run from a web page.
Like we said a couple of weeks ago, no web page should ever ask you to paste code into a terminal or run box. Like, I can't think of one legitimate reason why that should ever be a thing.
Yeah, I mean, personal computers are a bit different, maybe, if you're trying to find a fix and you've landed somewhere dodgy, but this sort of thing here is a bit more targeted in a way of it could come from I think originally it started from a phishing email, ClickFix, like Microsoft based phishing email, I think it was, but these are appearing on web pages now, I guess, that you're landing on through dodgy ads or dodgy pop-ups. So it's not just Windows now.
I do wonder if this means that we're going to start seeing less captures. It's quite funny, actually. I've just Googled. I knew there was a thing about invisible recaptures. So where it just looked at behavior, you didn't have to the user didn't actually have to click. And I've Googled a page, and the WordPress page that it refers to is down. It's telling me that it needs configuration, which is strange. I do wonder if if people lose trust in captures, then will we stop seeing captures?
Yeah.
Which, if attackers could please do this, but with cookies instead, so we stop seeing cookies, that would be cool. Like, if you could just fake cookie warnings. I'm joking, of course. Don't. But
they'll probably just move to the next one, like you said. Really,
they will.
It's just a thing to educate, I guess, on what you should expect the user flow sort of thing to be. Capture will never ask you to run something.
No, they won't. They won't. And it continues.
Yeah.
Right. So, if on your Windows, Linux, Mac, if something asks you to paste if a web browser asks you to paste code in, press Control and V, Command and V. Do not do it. Right. Last Tuesday was Microsoft Patch Tuesday. And we have, what do we have? We have 66 security vulnerabilities this month, including 10 rated critical. These affect various Microsoft tools, but there is an actively exploited 0-day CVSS of 8.8, and this is being exploited by the APT group Stealth Falcon since March. And this targets defense companies in Turkey, plus others. There is another publicly disclosed vulnerability, which uses a Windows SMB client elevation of privilege flaw. But this was publicly disclosed, but patched before widely being exploited. There's a bunch of other stuff. Look, we don't need to go into the details of these because it's not that kind of podcast, but Patch Tuesday happens every month. There's always a stack of patches. Sometimes they're really nasty. Sometimes they're not so nasty. This really emphasizes the importance of installing your updates. Windows updates quite seamlessly now, but these updates are being exploited in the wild. At least one of them is. So install your updates. Tell your people to install their updates and don't delay your restarts. Mac users looking at you, who are typically really bad at delaying your restarts.
Up times of days, probably.
Yeah. Every single patch counts. So please install your patches. Right. The next story tonight is, and this is an unpatched vulnerability, at least at the time of recording. So Microsoft is warning that a long-standing vulnerability in Windows shortcut files, which are .lnk files, .lima November Kilo, is being actively exploited. Now, what is a .lnk file? So it's essentially a shortcut. You send someone a link to a web page. That's a link. LNK stands for link. So we often don't even realize that they are LNK files, especially if you're on a Windows device that doesn't display the file extensions, which I don't think they do out of the box anymore. I think you have to turn that on. But just viewing this file in Explorer can trigger downloads or remote attacks. So there is no CVE for this flaw, and there is no dedicated update. Instead, they're relying on Windows Defender and Smart App Control to sort it out for the time being, and a full fix is possibly months away. I think this is probably a tricky one for them to solve, because it's probably a design flaw. This has been around for ages, but has only recently been weaponized. So essentially, we're relying on the antivirus built into your operating system to defend against this. So if you don't have Windows Defender on, or you use a different AV product, like one baked in with your VPN client, or you're one of the people that still pays for Norton or Symantec or McAfee, you might not be protected from this.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Essentially, a scenario is you could get a shortcut to view an invoice, but then when you click on it, it actually runs malicious code. And my understanding is that this can also call out to different places on your network. So if you're in a business and there's a compromised device, if they want to get other devices on that, one way of doing it is to send a link around. So if you get sent a shortcut or a .lnk file, don't click it, or really don't just trust it blindly. Of course, click it if you know who it's from and you trust it and you're respecting it, but don't click it. So if I read this completely, let me just go into a little bit more detail. A malicious LNK file can exploit a Windows feature by including an attacker-controlled network location, targeting users across different networks. It exploits a flaw in Windows File Explorer, which does not fully display certain parameters. So this vulnerability has existed for years, and Microsoft claims Defender protects against it. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. I hadn't really heard of LNK files before today. And I guess, like it says, the file extensions are typically hidden. And I don't know if many people deal with, at least not once.
I honestly think it's one of those things that you don't even think about.
Yeah.
Everybody knows what an EXE is, typically. I mean, my mum probably doesn't, but a lot of people know what an EXE is. They know what a PDF is. They know what a doc is, or an XLS file, or an XLSX file. But a .lnk isn't something that you'd necessarily know about. But everyone is now talking about this, and it's not new. There's a McAfee blog article here from 3 years ago. McAfee still exists.
Yeah, I guess if you get sent one or it's in a zip file, it's a bit more hidden, and you just, might open
There's
it
another
without
file.
thinking.
Everybody knows zip files. So, yeah. So, yes, the one way to tell... Oh, no, I was going to say the one way to tell on this. So, and this is the problem. I've got an image here. Let me see. It's a very low quality image. Let me just make this a little larger. So the image is an example of two files next to each other. And this is from a Cyber Reason blog post that I found. And you can see here, the top one is, so there's two files. The top one is a docx file, and the one underneath it is a docx shortcut. So that's actually a LNK file. And the only giveaway is the fact that when you look at file type, it says shortcut. And under name, it's got a little arrow. over the icon,
shortcut
a little link
thing,
shortcut. Exactly. So, but the file extension still says docx because,
Yeah.
So this is a good reason to use Windows Defender.
Yeah.
Which I never thought I would actually say.
Yeah, well, especially.
But I don't know what you'd use instead now, actually. Let's not get into antivirus tools.
On a personal machine, I guess, make sure it's on like a home PC.
I am running Windows Defender. I'm running the native security suite on this Windows device that I'm using.
Yeah.
Only because I think I've got Surfshark VPN, but it doesn't. It kind of tries to force antivirus on you, and I wanted to carry on using the baked-in stuff. I kind of trust. I now kind of trust Microsoft to know their tool.
Yeah, I think.
Do you know what I mean?
OS has got quite good.
It's like when you have a car and you buy like parts from the main dealer versus the cheap parts from the third party. Like, if you have a nice car, you probably want to buy the nice parts. If you care, I don't know. Right. That's all of the news. And that's the phishing threats for this week.
Cool, yeah.
Don't forget, alongside the podcast, we have the newsletter. The Awareness Angle newsletter comes out every single Monday alongside the podcast. And in that newsletter, we talk about the topics we talk about on the podcast. And we give you the awareness angle on them. We give you the simple security takes for each of those stories. So if you don't want to listen to the podcast, if you're fed up of hearing us, just get the newsletter. Or if you want some more information, get the newsletter. Where can you find the newsletter, Luke?
On the website.
What's the website address, Luke?
riskycreative.com.
Yes, it is. Where else can you find the newsletter?
On your LinkedIn.
Yes.
Probably not mine, but yours. I should add
If you Google the awareness angle, then just Google the awareness angle. I think that our newsletter comes up on the first page. So
that's good from Google's indexing.
Yes. Right. We have awareness. So nothing really new to mention this week. Today we're recording this Thursday. Today was the Future of Cybersecurity Virtual Conference. It was a really, really good session. Lee Morton, Holly Foxcroft, me, Marcus Hutchins was a headline speaker and did a Q&A at the end. Really, really good session. There was also talks from vendors, Javad Malik from KnowBe4, Think Cyber were also there. So yeah, really, really good session. If you're into the human, it was a really human focused session today. There was some other stuff as well, but lots around the human. So if you missed it, you missed it. If we can get hold of any of the recordings or provide a link to any of the recordings, we'll put them in the newsletter, which is available everywhere we just said it was, or in the show notes. Click the link to go through to the blog page and there'll be a link there. So we'll try and get hold of them. I should be able to get a copy of mine up somewhere if you did miss it. I did a talk about pigeon. Basically, you see, I can essentially, I was going to do a talk and I had this talk prepared, right, about storytelling, because storytelling is really important. And then a pigeon got in my house. Have I told you the story about the pigeon?
No, it's new.
Okay. This was a few weeks ago. So essentially we were upstairs and we heard a strange donk, donk, donk. We were like, what's that? A kind of different frequency. So went to look and the curtains were moving and behind the sofa was a pigeon. So we essentially, the cat then jumped out from behind the sofa. So I've envisaged this like mauled pigeon to be behind the sofa. But my cat's never caught a pigeon before. My old cat used to catch pigeons for fun. But I think my current cat's probably scared of the size of a pigeon. So, yes, we got the pigeon out and there's a story of that. And then we worked out how the pigeon had got in. And then essentially I tied all of this to a cybersecurity breach. You know, we were upstairs, we got indicators of compromise with a noise. So we started to investigate and then we saw the third party that had, you know, gained entry to our system, our environment. So we isolated the threat with a washing basket. We called in some outside resource, which was my son, who's like an animal handler. And then we managed to remove the threat from our environment. And then we started like locking it down. We shut the windows, shut the doors, and then we investigated how it happened. Yeah. See, the analogies are all there. It all like ties together wonderfully.
No, yeah, it does.
And it was all because I feed the squirrels.
All right.
And I dropped some nuts by the back door. I dropped some nuts outside the back door, and then the nut box got knocked off by the cat, and the nuts went on the inside of the back door. So the pigeon's come to peck at the nuts and has worked its way in the back door, and then probably been scared by the cat and come in the living room and tried to fly out the window and has fallen behind the sofa. So
amazing.
I didn't expect to be spending 4 minutes talking about a pigeon tonight, so I am very sorry. That's the end of the pigeon tales. But if you want the whole thing, I will provide that at some point and put a link in the newsletter to the pigeon story. All right. Should we talk about some comments really quickly? So I shared a video on TikTok last week. Last week we talked about Gen Z ditching passwords faster than the rest of us and moving to passphrases. A couple of comments on TikTok about that. Someone said we're not old, we are wise. And I agree on saying what decade people are born in instead of using those phrases. Gen Z, millennial. It's like mum says that their baby is 104 weeks old instead of 2 years. Annoying. Someone says, this is brilliant, what on earth are passkeys? I think we have some more education to do to the worldwide population about that. Yeah. Someone said, we old. Two-factor or no way was another one as well. Someone regarding last week, we talked about Signal were taking a stand against Windows recall. Yeah. And they were blocking Windows recall from scanning Signal messages, Signal the messaging app. Prof. Borkensnoot said, users can just add apps they don't want captured. Recall is excellent. This is not news. To you, maybe, but I think 99% of users don't even know what recall is.
Yeah, probably not.
Yeah. Yes. We put something about Blender. Last week you spoke about Blender and the .blend file that contained malware. Fabersol_realm said, you can't trust anything anymore. No, you can't.
No.
Donovan Cole 0 said, okay. And then regarding an older video we shared, still using Windows XP on a train, we talked about that. That was 2 or 3, 4 episodes ago, I think. Someone 4 days ago said, I always love the term military spec when it comes to computing, because all that means is it's old.
Yeah.
So, and someone reckons I look like Bert from The Big Bang Theory.
Right.
So there you go. Do you know who Bert from The Big Bang Theory is?
Not off the top of my head, but I probably, if I see it.
A
little bit, maybe. Tiny bit.
Maybe a little bit. I kind of get that. In real life, Brian posing, I can see that. Yeah. Is there a likeness here?
It's not very doppelganger, but it's close.
The glasses and a gingery white beard. Yeah, okay. If you want to see what he looks like, check us out on YouTube.
Yeah.
YouTube, just search for Risky Creative or The Awareness Angle, and it comes up. What's next tonight? Our interview series.
Yeah. Try to drop something.
Yes. That's cool. It sounded like money or like chimes. It was like, ooh. So our interview series, every 2 weeks we launch a new interview. Last one we released was with Sarah Carty from Unboring. We talk about marketing and how marketing is relevant compared to security awareness. Well, the next one, if you care about phishing or phishing touches your world, or you run a phishing campaign, you want to listen to the next interview we've got coming out this Thursday. I sat down with Terry McCorkle, who's the founder and CEO of Phish Cloud. He has come from red teaming to protecting critical infrastructure to now leading Phish Cloud. And basically, they're doing things a bit different. Terry's rethought phishing training. We talk about why traditional simulations fail, how real-time data and just-in-time training works better, and why people should be part of the solution, not just those blamed. Basically, it flips the script on phishing simulations. So it's a really good conversation with Terry, and that's available in a normal podcast feed or on the normal YouTube channel. And that'll be out this Thursday. So me interviewing Terry McCorkle.
Awesome, yeah. Definitely sounds like one to listen to.
It's a really interesting one. We all, like anyone that works in cybersecurity awareness, information security awareness, phishing is something we all end up coming back around to. We always end up talking about it. And Phish Cloud's an interesting solution. It's definitely worth a listen.
Cool.
It's not a sales pitch. There's lots in there that isn't just like what they do. So, yeah. Right. Something new for this week. We're constantly rethinking it, constantly evolving.
Yep.
We're going to talk about a couple of past topics, and these are because there's been updates on these or new things on these. So, Luke, I'll take the first one. Do you want to take the second one?
Yeah, that's cool.
So the first one is a news article I saw this week. The FAA, which is the Federal Aviation Administration. So they, in America, they manage air traffic control systems. And the air traffic control system in America currently uses floppy disks, paper flight strips, and computers running Windows 95. Yeah. Nice modern tech there. Yeah. Yeah. Well, there's a new initiative with multi-billion dollars of funding that aims to modernize the system within 4 years, phasing out obsolete tech by around 2029. So FAA officials stress this is the most critical infrastructure project in decades. But meeting the timeline while keeping operations running smoothly will be a serious challenge. It's funny because most of the people, when we spoke about old hardware, most of the comments we got on like LinkedIn or on TikTok and stuff were like, it's old, but it works. Like it's, you know, it just keeps ticking along because it just does what it needs to do.
People, or someone mentioned about how, like these things are so old, no one knows how to hack them anyway, sort of thing. But
yeah,
maybe at some point that is the case, but maybe not.
It's worth noting. It's worth noting that air traffic control wasn't impacted by the CrowdStrike outage last July because you can't run CrowdStrike on a Windows 95 box. But on the other hand, you can't run CrowdStrike on a Windows 95 box. So there might be a pro there, but there's also a con. Like if there is something, when was the last time Windows 95 received a patch? I don't know. If you know, leave us something in the comments. I could probably Google it. But so yes, it's going to be some systems, air traffic control, some systems can never be shut down. Never be shut down. Because it's crucial for safety. I can see this happening at Christmas Day or something like that. So because of this, you can't just switch off one site and swap out the old stuff for new ones. And aside from that, the upgrades to this critical infrastructure should be resistant to hacking and other vulnerabilities. How? Keep them offline? Like don't connect them to the internet? Glue up the USB sockets?
Yeah.
So yeah, they spend loads of money into maintaining the old air traffic control systems and keep them running. But age will eventually catch up is what they're saying. So the White House hasn't revealed what this update will cost. Donald Trump's busy doing other things at the moment. I think he probably doesn't really care about this. The FAA has already put a request for information to gather data from companies willing to take on the challenge. And they're going to do industry days so companies can pitch their tech and ideas. This is, I mean, it's quite an interesting way of doing it. Like, talk to us.
Someone's going to make a lot of money.
Yes. Yeah, be interesting to know, like, at the top of the chain, I'm predicting this now, at some point at the top of the chain, it's going to be the air traffic control systems are now owned by Russia or something like that, or China, but we'll see. Like, you can see these news stories emerging, can't you? I'm sure there's a fully baked, American-owned, American-developed company that has no foreign components that can... That's the news. That's the angle some of the news stories on this will be. But anyway, I digress. That's my past topic. Luke, over to you.
Oh yeah, so Apple, with their legal row in the UK's had a bit of an update where WhatsApp has formally joined Apple's court challenge, and they're backing Apple in opposing the demand for backdoor access to encrypted users' data for iCloud in the UK. And this is obviously where Apple pulled the ADP, the advanced protection that they had in place. And WhatsApp has supplied evidence that they've said should hopefully have them overturn the request for Apple. And that, WhatsApp would challenge any request that would be similar as well if it happened to them. So, yeah.
So this dates back from February. It was the end of February when Apple pulled end-to-end encryption from iPhones here in the UK because the government has asked for access or asked for decryption.
Yeah.
So it's quite interesting that now WhatsApp are joining them.
Yeah, I guess maybe they've been poked, perhaps at some point. Probably best to team up than go solo.
Yes. Yes. I wonder if that was a conversation between Tim Cook and Mark Zuckerberg. Probably at Trump's inauguration or something like that.
Probably.
Yeah.
But yeah, it'd be interesting to see what comes from this. I think the whole legal thing was supposed to be all secret, and I think even that had some backlash. I can't remember.
They were trying to do it behind closed doors, but then I'm pretty sure that they were told that they couldn't.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure we covered a story shortly after that had happened that it had to be it had to be public. It wasn't allowed to happen behind closed doors. So let's see where this goes if it ever gets there.
Yeah,
I suppose.
Oh yeah, I'm sure we'll update in the future when we know.
Yeah, excellent. Right, that's past topics. Now let's get on to future topics. So I have two things I wanted to talk to you about, and neither of these are really in depth. I haven't seen anything mega exciting this week. Apart from, I want to give a shout out to someone. I was in McDonald's and someone came up to me and said, "Do you do a cybersecurity podcast?" It's like, yes, I do. And it's the first time I've been recognised in public. So that's awesome.
That's amazing.
So I want to give a shout out to Ed. Ed from Nomios. Hello, Ed, if you're listening. Ed came up and said hi in McDonald's, which was amazing. So if you're in the market for a UK-based NOC or SOC 24/7 coverage, get in touch with Ed Martin. Look him up Ed Martin at Nomios. Get in touch with him. And I'm sure he will sort you out. There you go, Ed. He didn't ask for that. He didn't try to sell me anything either, which was amazing. Hi Ed. If you do see me or Luke in McDonald's or somewhere else, do come and say hi. Luke's probably like, don't say hi.
No, yeah, I'm not as famous as you, but you never know. I can offer a selfie.
Never know. Yes, selfies. I should have got a selfie. That's true. Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah, I thought that was cool. I was like, oh my God. I came home and told the wife and she's like, oh my God. It's like, shut up. It's fine. Right. Two things I wanted to talk to you about this week. And the first one is I saw this article. I don't read this paper. in like my news feed came an article from the Express, UK publication, what used to be called the Daily Express. Don't go there because it's full of adverts. And now uBlock Origin doesn't work. I can't get rid of them that effectively because the other ad blockers stock other stuff working. That's a separate conversation. It was basically said your Windows 10 PC is toast. So it was talking about the end of Windows 10. And look, support does end for Windows 10 in October the 14th. And there's going to be no security patches or feature updates for Windows 10. And the whole angle of this news article was, instead of buying a new PC to run Windows 11, it was talking about a grassroots project called End of 10. So it was basically telling people to switch to Linux. And that's what this group, End of 10, want people to do. So obviously Linux, everybody, we post about the end of Windows 10 on TikTok and stuff, and all of the comments like, you should use Linux, you should use this, you should use that. Linux is great, right? Because it's free, it's open source, it's got no ads or like Microsoft telemetry. There's no Copilot. There's no like feeding stuff back to, harvest your data. And it also, the other angle we raised with Windows 10 being turned off was e-waste. There's millions of computers that are just going to be vulnerable, or people will just get rid of when they're still actually quite good and can still function for probably 90% of their users. So what this also, essentially with Linux works on hardware that is deemed incompatible. So it works on older CPUs. It doesn't need a TPM chip, which is one of the requirements, the encryption chip. So lots of different versions of Linux. And essentially, End of 10 is a group that are encouraging users to switch from Windows 10 to Linux. And it sounds really tempting. So the team, some people involved in the Linux community or KDE project are included. And they're saying, if you can't install Windows 10, then if you can't install Linux, then find someone with technical expertise that can. So it's quite an interesting argument, really.
Yeah. See, they've got a nice website.
I mean, it's definitely
as well. There's a website as well. Endof10.org.
Ah, right. Okay.
So, it runs through pretty much what the news story mentioned, I guess.
Yeah.
And then
it's a nice, simple website.
reasons.
They give 5 reasons to upgrade your old computer to Linux.
They also have a map as well, but we can go through the reasons first.
So they've got no new hardware, no license costs. So it doesn't cost you anything. You don't have to pay for the operating system. Brilliant. Enhanced privacy. Interesting angle. This is quite a good angle. Windows comes with lots of ads and spyware. You're kind of selling your soul to Microsoft, which does slow down your computer. Whenever you look how to speed up Windows, one of the things it suggests is the top one is always turn off Microsoft telemetry. It's good for the planet. Production of a computer accounts for 75% of carbon emissions over its life cycle. So keeping it longer means, you're not making something new, which is obviously bad for the planet. There's lots of local repair cafes and independent professional services and computer shops available for providing you help, and better user control. So you can make changes, you can do stuff. The 4 freedoms of software: use, study, share, and improve. I love that. And then there's a link. Is this a link to a map? Is this going to tell all of the listeners exactly where I am in the world right now? It's actually, there we go. Look at that. So you can see everywhere. I mean, there'd be other places to get someone to help upgrade you to Linux. But
yeah, I think these are the ones that have volunteered to be part of
these are the ones that have signed up to End of 10.
Yeah.
Look, if you're listening and you work for an IT service provider, a large chunk of our listeners are in the UK. Wow. There's not much competition here, guys. So now it might be a good opportunity to get you on the map. That's a really, really interesting map. I quite like that. But I digress. Look, there's loads of coverage all around the world. So yeah, End of 10. I thought it was an interesting angle. Like, I've kind of poo-pooed Linux previously when talking about this because, you know, my mum's not going to install Linux. She wouldn't know where to start, and it's not really simple. And she'd call it Linux or Linux or something, you know. And then which flavor do you choose? Because there's so many. So, this is a really, really good thing to do. And it, again, says get Rufus. So, I've used Rufus for years to do many things. So yeah. Are you going to install Linux on your old Windows 10 device? If you are, get in touch. Luke, what would you do?
I'd probably install Linux, but I'm a Windows user, so I'd probably upgrade my machine a bit. Self-build sort of thing, so a bit different.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I have a media server here, I think I said before, that runs Windows 10, and the device isn't Windows 11 compatible, but it's quite a nice, it's a tiny box, but it's quite a juicy box. So I might actually do that. I might upgrade it to Linux. I probably won't do it this week, but I will probably do it before October, and we'll see how that goes.
Cool, yeah.
So, yeah. One other thing I wanted to mention this week was another article I saw, and I just thought it was an interesting way to talk about it, okay? So we talk about attack surface, okay? But an attack surface, we kind of consider, in cyber, we talk about an attack surface as being that's where the attacks come. And there's now a concept of an attack atmosphere. Because modern threats are increasingly sophisticated, and do many different things, leverage existing tools or exploit subtle vulnerabilities rather than the big bang, the big critical vulnerabilities. Bitdefender indicates, they've done some research indicating that 84% of major incidents involve living off the land tactics, where attackers use legitimate admin tools to execute malicious actions. So they're basically saying that we should stop talking about a threat, an attack surface, and talk about an attack atmosphere, because it's everywhere.
Yeah.
It encourages a broader, more holistic approach, considering the entire environment and user behaviors rather than isolated entry points. And I think this leads into that whole massive switch that we're never has the human element been talked about more than it is now post M&S, MGM last year. These were all socially engineering attacks. There wasn't actually to get in, there was no vulnerability. The user was the vulnerability.
Yeah.
So
it proves a lot. Yeah. There's a lot more to do with human behavior and the role of a awareness professional.
I saw some of the conversations I had at InfoSecurity Europe last week were that there's definitely been an uptick in interest in the human side of things. And I think now is probably a good time. I mean, it's probably not. It's probably going to be the same old thing because we need to be able to report on it. But now's probably a good time to be looking at the human side of security. Now's probably a good time to be thinking of having a career in the human side of security, or how you can change human behaviors, because that's the vulnerabilities you can't buy an EDR for. You can't go and you can buy a KnowBe4, but or a SoSafe or a CybSafe, but is that alone, just turning that on and plugging it in, going to do it? There's way more than that.
Yeah.
You can buy a poster.
So go on.
No, I was going to say you could buy a billboard and put a poster on it, but you need someone to control that whole narrative and build that whole campaign and design it all, and then, help it land and convert it. It's not just a case of sticking it up there and hoping people see it.
Yeah. I was just going to say, sorry, I lost my train of thought.
Sorry.
That's right. There's obviously a lot of behavioral metrics and platforms out there that monitor those sorts of things. And I think it's just the importance of actually taking action on those and seeing the numbers move a bit, rather than, like you said, just putting up some basic posters and messaging every now and then. There's a lot more lot more to it that you can be doing, other than just a security tool that protects the computer. Doesn't necessarily protect the person using it.
I think we as awareness professionals, and not everyone that listens to this is an awareness professional. Some people might not even know what I'm talking about when I say an awareness professional. An awareness professional is obviously someone that tries to raise awareness of cybersecurity in an organisation. But I think awareness professionals, when they're doing a activity, an initiative, a campaign, it's really worth remembering, how do I measure success? Because if you measure success for the things you do, you can then use that to prove your value and prove your worth and ask for more investment. Mm-hmm. Well, with this much, I was able to do this. So think of the ways that you can measure success in everything you do. But that's probably a conversation for a different episode.
Yeah.
Right. That's me done. Luke, what did you have?
Oh, yeah. I just had one thing to mention today. I mean, I'm pretty sure we've shared something similar before. A phishing email I received to my Gmail. Basically, Spanish language, I think it was. Obviously, didn't really understand what it's saying, but it mentioned something about some electronics that I've bought, apparently, and then an attachment of an image attachment of an invoice for supposedly PayPal. I've bought an iPhone 16, and it's how PayPal have noticed an unauthorized transaction on my account. Please call to cancel this order. So it's nothing special, nothing sophisticated, but I mean, the fact that it came to my inbox and didn't get caught, I'm not sure why it didn't, but I guess just criminals are still trying these sorts of things, which, I mean, I'm surprised it even potentially works. I feel like there's better ways to be doing this sort of scam.
Well, we often talk about this, and I often say if it didn't work, people wouldn't do it.
Yeah.
So people must fall for these, because otherwise people wouldn't go to the effort of building them.
Yeah.
This is exactly, it's not exactly the same, but we've done a video on this. I think we spoke about this again. We did a video like 2.5, 3 years ago now, but the video is still completely relevant because it exactly talks about something similar to this. You get a fake PayPal invoice, and then it encourages you to phone a number. We actually phoned them. So if you look on the risky, we'll put a note in the show notes and a link to it, obviously, but on our YouTube channel, one of our early videos is a PayPal video where we actually called the attackers. We actually called the number and spoke to them. So it's this one. There's a few interesting things to note about this, and Luke, chuck an image of this obviously up in post, but I often complain that Gmail shouldn't let these in, right? And it's the same with Outlook. Like, Gmail's not, I can't blame Gmail at all. Not single-handedly. I don't think Gmail should let these in, because with all the OCR technology, the converting images into text, Gmail should be able to tell that this is PayPal, but it hasn't come from PayPal, and that you've not received anything from this email address before. Like, if you build up a trust profile of this email and its contents, it would not be very high.
Yeah, it should fail, you think, and not land in the inbox.
You'd think. Interested to note that every mention of PayPal in this email looks to be coloured. That's all an image. So I'm wondering if the colours would throw off the OCR, whether it converts the image to text. But even just receiving an image, the OCR goes, we have noticed an unauthorized transaction from your account. If a transaction was not made by you, from some random Gmail, like there's so many reasons. It should at least flag that it's risky.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Oh yeah, definitely.
Shame on you, Gmail. Still, shame on you, and not just Gmail, but it probably would have landed in an Outlook or a Yahoo.com or many others. It's email vendors should do better with all this AI technology. Come on now.
Yeah.
It's mad. You can make videos. I can type in 10 words and you make an amazing looking video, but you still are letting this land in an inbox. That's not okay.
Yeah. It's crazy.
When you think about it like that, it's not okay. Batten the hatches first before building cool shit.
Their priorities are with cool AI, video generation.
Money.
Not phishing emails.
They're looking forward. They're not looking back.
Yeah.
That's the problem. Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, that was all I have this week.
Cool. Okay. And just a little note, next week's episode is something a little different, isn't it?
Yeah. More of a top 10 discussion.
Yeah. Luke's on holiday, so we've done something a little different for once.
Fully pre-recorded this one is.
Yes. Luke's going to be traveling at 90 mile an hour upside down, doing loop-the-loops on a roller coaster. And I'm going to have the week off, which I'm thoroughly looking forward to. But we've got an awesome episode for you where we talk about some basic cyber behaviours and some different ways to communicate cyber. So should be, if you work in cybersecurity, next week is for you. If you're here for the news and for the weekly updates, you can have a week off and we'll be back the week after next with a normal, typical episode.
Cool, yeah.
Right, lovely. All right. Well, have a good week. And Luke, I'll see you in 2 weeks.
Yeah, cool. Catch you later.
All right.
Bye, everyone.
See you later.